So as we've discussed in a previous video, we have a few different options for pulling information into our displays from Operations Center. So we can think about doing setup files, we can do data sync, but we can also do work plans. So work plans is what we're going to focus on in this video. So in order to do a work plan, or what we're accomplishing with a work plan, is we're taking the job of, say, we're planting. When we pull into a field, we usually have to go over and change our farm information, our fields, our guidance lines, maybe populate a prescription, a different fertilizer rate, and our guidance lines for that field. So with a work plan, we can automate that whole process. So when we pull into that field and we cross that boundary, it'll populate of, hey, a work plan's detected. Do you want to apply this setup information to your display? So at that point, we can accept it, and then we can get on with completing our work. So more time spent doing the job and less time doing setup. So to do a work plan, we're going to come to our Plan tab at the top, and we're going to go to Work Planner. So a work plan is something we would do on a field-by-field basis. So right here, I have it set up for 2025 seeding, and we're going to go ahead and start planning our seeding operations for the year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this Levitt's quarter to do our work plan with. So I use a little filter at the top to start typing it in. I could have scrolled down and found it, but we're going to do Levitt's quarter for our work plan. We'll hit next, and we'll start assigning our information. So what crop are we going to be? So in this one, we're going to actually be corn for our crop. From here, we can select our variety. A lot of times you probably have a pretty good idea what variety you're going to be using for the field. But one thing with a work plan, it does seem like that, okay, I finished up this field, I have a few units left in my planter, I'm going to continue planting with that variety, and you can do that. You don't have to populate this variety to override the previous one, but it is something we do want to define. That way, mainly for our operator that gets there, they know what variety we'll be planting to or shifting to next. So if they're looking at a different variety on the tender maybe than what they had in the work plan, maybe there's a few questions that should be asked from that standpoint. But ideally, this is a good plan to figure out ahead of time. So we're going to grab this variety. We're going to actually plant it 25,000 seeds per acre. Another option is we can actually auto-populate the prescription for it. So if I had a seeding prescription associated for this field, let's just grab this one here. If this was the seeding prescription I was going to use for the field, I can put that information in here now. So when I populate this work plan, it automatically loads that prescription for us. So we'll do that. Otherwise, if we put a manual rate in, we'd be going to that rate when we're planting the field. Now we can add any additional varieties. We can add other things like fertilizer if we're doing maybe multiple applications at the same time. So if I had a planter with an exact rate system on it, or a sure point system where we're putting on liquid in furrow or 28005 nitrogen out the back. However, if we're doing those other applications, we can determine those right now too. So if I'm doing fertilizer, and we're just going to select this first 1034O and say we're doing 5 gallons per acre. So now as we would change on a field by field basis, these will populate then on our work plans. Okay, as we scroll down our list, we have some option around our guidance tracks. So if I want to save all of my guidance tracks and we select through, here's our guidance lines that we have active under this field. So from there, whichever one we would place a star by, that green star, that's the one that's going to auto-populate for us in our list. So if I'm going to start in that northeast corner of the field and I want my end rows to have that first AB line, I can select that, and then that's going to be that list that's populated right away. If we go back and select our auto path from boundaries, so if I had this 2025 boundary line, if that's the one I'm going to use, I'll put the star by it, and that's the one that will populate then for us first. Okay, as we go down, we can add our machine we're going to. So if this is my tractor, we'll grab this 8360R, our implement. We're on a planter, it's a 1770 NT. Again, a little bit different on everybody's operation. Then if I have an operator here to save it with, I can add that operator detail. If we're using a work order number, if it was a number that we associated with the job. I'd say moreover in a commercial application standpoint, if we want to document any of that information, we can input that work order number here. Otherwise, any instructions that we have that we want to provide the operator, we can do that. So if we wanted to say start on the east side and move west, if out of seed, switch to ABC 789 variety. So whatever details we'd want to add that operator would potentially want to see when that work plan populates in their display. You don't have to have work instructions. It is an optional thing. But like I say, any details that might be helpful to them to save any extra phone calls, trying to get a hold of anybody that could potentially hold up their progress of getting the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and save this work plan. I could go and then start my next work plan for my next field and go field by field if we think about what our progress, what our planning needs to be for every field that we're doing for the seeding, or if we were doing application or harvest work plans also. So as we would build our list, we can select this work plan. I can send it to the equipment. And if I send it to my display I've been using, I can send it and the work plan will populate. So we'll see a little pop down slider at the top again. One thing with a work plan is it will automatically import. So I don't have to go into my file manager and select the work plan to populate it. So yeah, there's that drop down slider. Work plan is successfully imported. So from here, I can go to setup. I can go to my work list and my planned list. And here is the details for this work plan. So there's the notes we typed in on the instructions at the top, all of that information. So now with this display, when we cross that boundary into this field, we will actually have this pop up like, hey, work plan detected. Do we want to apply it? And then continue on with getting the jobs done.